Hey everyone, today we are talking about gender and number. This is our first exploración gramatical or grammar exploration. I do want to take, before we dive into this, just take a minute to talk about what is grammar. Sometimes people get nervous and scared about grammar. You really shouldn't be. Grammar is not about memorizing complicated rules, although there are books that will treat it that way. I want us to think about grammar more as in looking at the patterns that a language follows. And we want to look at what patterns people who speak Spanish use so that when we speak Spanish, we're following the same patterns and doing it the same way they do, right? The way people whose language is Spanish use Spanish is the way we want to do it because we want to use Spanish in a way that they will understand and will communicate to them. And so today we're going to start talking about two things that Spanish has. These are very foundational: gender and number. And this is on page 8 in your book. And when you do the Mind Tab activities, it will walk you through it. I believe there's also a video in Mind Tab that explains this. And there'll be a good bit of practice to help you get comfortable using it. But I just wanted to talk a little bit about it and kind of get you started. Gender and number. We'll start with number because I think that's the one that's easiest for us as those of us who speak English to adapt to, right? Number is whether or not something is singular or plural, right? Number means singular or plural. So if it's just one, it's singular. If it's more than one, it's plural. How do we do that in English? We add an S or ES. Usually. We have some weird words in English. For example, I can have one sheep and more than one becomes two. It's still sheep. And then one fish is a fish. If I have two, it's still two fish. Okay, so we have some that don't even change in English. We also, thinking about number in English, I can have one goose, but two become two geese, right? And then one mouse becomes two mice, but one house is two houses, is not two heights, right? So English can be a little bit weird with that, but usually we just add a S or ES. Spanish actually is simpler than English. We will always add a S or a ES. We don't have as many of the wacky ones when it comes to making things plural in English. English has some weird ones, like fungus becomes fungi. How'd that happen? There's a story there, but that's not part of Spanish, so let's move on. In Spanish, if a word ends in a vowel, so our vowels are A, E, I, O, and U. In English, A, E, I, O, U. In Spanish, A, E, I, O, U. If it ends in a vowel, it's easy. You just add an S. So libro becomes libros. Silla becomes sillas. The word ends in not a vowel, so all the other letters are consonants, right? A consonant is any other letter. Then we add an ES, right? So for example, profesor becomes profesores. Papel becomes papeles, and so on, right? We just add an ES. If it doesn't end in a vowel, we add an ES. Okay, easy enough. And then the other one exception to that is if it ends in a Z. Right? And that letter in Spanish is zeta, right? If it ends in zeta, the zeta will change to a C, and then we add a ES, right? So lápiz becomes lápices, all right? And so if you get in there and do your Mind Tab activities, it'll give you practice making words singular and plural. It's not that different from English. But number one, is good to make sure you know the pattern. Number two, as you do that, you're going to get more comfortable with the words and know them. Remember, you've got to record a video at the end of this week. If you have more than one of something in your study space, you need to make it plural correctly. Okay, so that's number. The other thing we're talking about today is gender. Gender gets tricky because people's gender is part of their identity, right? And I don't want to get into that and let that distract us from understanding Spanish. So please understand that we're talking about gender. We're not talking about who someone is when it comes to grammar in Spanish. In Spanish, everything has a gender. In English, generally only living things, especially people and animals, have gender. If it's not an animal, we usually don't give it a gender. And actually, a lot of times, even animals, if it doesn't have a name, when we're talking about it, we don't worry about the gender of it. That's just kind of how English functions. In Spanish, everything is either masculine or feminine. So, for example, this would be a libro, right? Libro ends in O, and so it's masculine, right? Sure. Does that mean that girls aren't supposed to read books? Or that reading books is only for men? Not at all. Not at all. It's just part of the grammar. Similarly, the Spanish word for chair, and I'm sitting in one right here. Let's see. I don't know how well the camera can show that. It's okay. The word for chair is silla. It's feminine. Okay? Does that mean that I am feminine for sitting in it? Not at all. I'm still who I am. Sitting in a chair does not change me, right? Does me sitting in it change a chair? No. The gender of the object is what it is. Now, the gender of words referring to people will change to reflect the gender of that individual, right? But if it's not a person, then the gender of that object is just going to stay the same. We're not used to that in English, but in Spanish it actually affects how we put words together. We'll talk about that more later this week. So just pay attention. I know it kind of feels weird and awkward. Just work with it. The more you do it, the more comfortable it'll get. Generally, words that are masculine are going to end in the letters L, O, S, E, and R. Generally, if it ends in one of those letters, is masculine. If it's feminine, it usually ends in A, or words that end I-O-N are also feminine. We do have a list of exceptions, and they are in your book on page 8. These are words that don't follow that pattern. So we've got 3 words that end in A but are masculine. Those are dia, mapa, and problema. They end in A. They look like they're feminine, but we're going to treat them like masculine words, and the words that go around them, we'll treat them that way. And then we have 3 words that end in O, but are really feminine. It's mano, foto, and moto. So we got 6 exceptions. Make sure you know those that might show up on the test in a couple of weeks. And make sure you're paying attention to the words you're using when you record your video, which I'll be watching for. That is due Friday, but of course, if you turn it in early, I can let you know what you need to fix to make sure you do get a perfect score on that. So this is gender and number. Please go into MindTap. There will be more explanation there and lots of opportunities to practice and become comfortable with this so that when you do record the video, you're good to go. Y'all have a great day, and I'll see you around.